Is it possible to make $7 million with $180? It doesn't even make sense, does it? Grace Groner, a woman from Michigan who shopped at thrift stores and didn't even have a car, managed to pull it off. But her journey from poverty to wealth is one that most people can't seem to understand. This is because Grace Groner's income at Abbott Laboratories, where she worked as a secretary, was never impressive. How then did this lowly secretary come to make a $7 million fortune? This story will brighten your day and blow your mind. Grace Groner is one of the most successful dividends investors in the industry, along with Ann Schreiber and Ronald Reed. The fact that she amassed a substantial fortune using an easy investment strategy makes her story even more interesting. At the age of 12, Grace and her identical twin sister lost both of their parents. A wealthy family adopted them, and that family covered all of their educational expenses through college. After receiving her diploma in 1931, she immediately found work at Abbott Laboratories as a secretary. She led an uncomplicated and frugal life, and she was never married. She walked rather than buy a car and bought her clothes from rummage sales. Ms. Groner spent 43 working years with Abbott Laboratories as a secretary. In 1935, she invested $180 in 3 shares of Abbott Laboratories. During her financial career, these shares gave her dividends and split into multiple shares. She then proceeded to reinvest the dividends for the subsequent 75 years. She never made a sale and kept all of her shares in the portfolio. As of the end of 2010, Abbott Laboratories was a dividend aristocrat with a track record of 38 consecutive years of yearly dividend increases. So when Grace Groner passed away in 2010, she had grown the modest initial investment of $180 that she made in 1935 into a fortune of $7 million. Several researchers said this investment produced a dividend income of $210 annually. It is a very high return on investment to turn $180 into $7 million over 75 years. She made effective use of the power of compounding. Grace did not have the $7 million stashed away in a bank account where it could be easily accessed during her entire life. Rather, for the first 13 to 14 years of her retirement, she did not even have $1 million in the bank. She didn't have to give any thought to her legacy until somewhere in the 1980s when Abbott started compounding at a high rate of return. According to several studies, the price of Abbott Labs shares alone increased 100 times between 1975 and 2010. This indicates that at the time of her retirement at the age of 65, the value of her holding in the stock could not have exceeded $70,000 to $100,000. In 1974, this was an outstanding amount of money, but it was not enough to significantly change one's life. Due to Grace's thriftiness, she likely lived on the money she received from Social Security and a business pension. The dividend income she received from Abbott served as a backup plan for her just in case. Her little investment took off as she matured and started enjoying her retirement. This is due to the nature of long-term compounding. So, what's the secret? Let's start with the most ignored virtue of all. 1. Consistency. Grace Groner worked for the same employer for her whole 43-year career. That would never happen in today's society. Most people experience boredom at some point or look for something new to do, thinking that the grass somewhere else is greener. But this is not Grace Groner in any way. She brought her employer value daily, and as a result, he or she continued to give her opportunities to work at the company through the good and bad times. She did not think there was any benefit to transferring jobs or switching employers. These days, many people go at the slightest hint of dissatisfaction or displeasure. That has the potential to be profitable, but maintaining consistency will also help in the long run. She worked hard over the years, gained promotions, and maintained a positive attitude the entire time the company employed her. Your life will benefit from it more than it would from any other behavioral quality if you are consistent. 2. Buy and hold. Because she had faith in her employer, she did nothing more than invest in the company stock and keep it to her possession for the rest of her life. And it repaid itself many times over. Following her passing, that investment multiplied so many times. That was an unimaginable amount of value the corporation had created for its stockholders. The millionaire secretary simply chose to tune out of the chaos of the world, the headlines, and the news, and she remained steadfast in her strategy. It was successful beyond anyone's wildest expectations and paid off in spades. There is a good reason why the buy and hold investment approach is so common in the financial business. It is effective. There are significantly more wealthy people who made their money through buy and hold investing than there are wealthy day traders who traded equities. 3. The millionaire secretary lived a quiet life. There is a reason why the president of Lake Forest College was taken aback by the sheer magnitude of the benefactor's contribution to the institution. The affluent secretary kept a low profile, so nobody knew how much money she had stashed away in the bank. In today's world, there's no way for people to understand how affluent another person is only by looking at them. She continued to purchase second-hand clothing even though she could have afforded new ones, and she had a peaceful life without feeling the need to get the newest and most exciting gleaming new toy to improve it. In fact, hers is such an unusual story that only a small percentage of people are aware that it even exists today, even though we could gain so much and improve our lives thanks to the decisions she made. 4. Taking advantage of compound interest. There is a solid reason why compound interest is considered the eighth wonder of the world. There aren't too many individuals that are aware of how powerful it is. Those who are ultra and super wealthy are aware of the significant impact that compound interest can have. The millionaire secretary had no problems grasping the idea. Because of this particular detail, her story is even more incredible. She did not even have access to the vast amount of knowledge that is readily available to us today at the touch of a button. But despite this, she managed to become one of the most successful investors that the world has ever known. She allowed her meager investment of $180 to ride out till the end of her life. It was never sold, and nothing was ever done with it. Don't worry about it, just let it play out and see how far it can go. People will become exceedingly wealthy if they take advantage of compound interest. It is not through W-2 income, but rather than what you do with that W-2 money that determines your success. Those who comprehend compound interest are likelier to profit from it, while those who aren't familiar with it are likelier to lose money. 5. She invested her money in investments that she was familiar with. She decided to invest in the business she had spent her entire life working for by purchasing stock. The millionaire secretary was confident in her firm's future and investments since she thought that the company would do well. She wasn't familiar with alternative investing or interested in learning about them. It's possible to make money by investing and more so in what you know best. Nevertheless, this does not imply that every investment will result in a profit. There are a lot of people in the world that purchase crypto with the expectation that it will make them wealthy. Some people have become extremely wealthy due to this, while others have been forced into bankruptcy. Many people become wealthy trading cryptocurrencies, but the problem is that they don't know when to stop or sell their holdings. We all have the greed and the desire to acquire something cheap and then sell it for a profit later. She only adhered to what she was familiar with to make her a multimillionaire. 6. She didn't try to get rich quick. The millionaire secretary took a look at her life from a long-term perspective. Grace's goal was to become wealthy many years later, but she wasn't concerned with her current financial situation. Who in their right mind genuinely thinks in terms of decades and years? Only the top 1% are the really wealthy. The rest of us have been conditioned to think in a manner that is so focused on the short term. There's no requirement to become wealthy quickly. There's no need to worry about how quickly you will arrive at your desired location because you will get there no matter what. 7. She kept her life private. It was never revealed to anyone that she was, in fact, the millionaire secretary. Since she worked in an administrative support, I wouldn't expect her to have much money either. What about those investment bankers that make more than $150,000 a year? They ought to be the ones that have a lot of money, right? These days, you simply can't predict anything. It's possible that the young individual who is seen sporting a hooded jacket with shorts is a crypto multimillionaire or a software developer who makes $400,000 annually. Back then, people took great care of their appearance to convey to others that they were successful. That is not held in a high regard by people in modern times as it formerly was. The secretary kept a very low profile, and the only people aware of her immense wealth were the recipients of her charitable contributions. The right to one's privacy confers power, but beyond that, it makes one more independent. It is an incredible feeling when the only person who is aware of your endeavors is yourself. It is hard to manage the expectations and opinions of other people about you. Truly, her story was fascinating back then and continues to be exciting today. Her narrative should serve as an example to millions worldwide regarding the practices that should be utilized to get wealthy. If you've ever felt overwhelmed with budgeting, this channel is a key to turning that around. By subscribing, you open up a vault of financial planning videos ready to help you take control. But there's more. The description houses a link to easy-to-use monthly budget trackers. Do your future self a favor and hit subscribe. Then take a peek at the description. You'll love it. See you in the next video.